Hey everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Silhouette Secrets Plus, and today I have a quick tutorial that can help you make your designs go farther. So I am going to be using an example that is the free silhouette design of the week. Every Tuesday there is a new free design that's released in the Silhouette Design Store. So if I come out to my Silhouette Design Store website, at the top is a little free category. And this week, it happens to be a card, a Mother's Day flower card. But what if you don't want to use it for that? I know a lot of people would look at that, and if they're not going to make it for this year, they may not get that free file. But I want to share with you how you can take this free file and make it your own that you could use all year long. So let's take a look at that. So once you have added that to your cart and have checked out, it should sync to your library. So if I come over here to the library, and you want to make sure your library is syncing. If your library is not syncing properly, then check out the links in the description below. I will link information on how you can get that to sync, as well as how you can find these files that I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to type in here Mother's Day card, and it pops up. It's this little file right here. So I have this file, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on it. It's going to open. So this is the parts of the design that you get when you purchase this file or when you check out with this file. So I have a mom on top. You have different layers that you would cut out of cardstock, typically out of cardstock, and then place those together on your card. But what if you don't want to send this as a mom card? You can still get that free design, and you can make it something you could use all year long. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how I took that design that downloaded, and using a few simple tools in the Silhouette Studio software, I created a new card. I created a card that said hello, but you could create something that says anything you want. So let's take a look at the tools I used and how I did this. So once you have the file open on your design space, I'm just going to select everything, and then I'm going to move this off. Now, the two things that you would need to find are a design that you want to use in the center. And because this design, the way it's created, I'm just going to click on this light pink area, and I'm going to make a copy. Because of the way the design is connected to the frame, there really is no way that I can release that from the frame and still be able to use the file. So what I wanted to do is I just searched in my library, and I found something that would work. So I'm going to be using a file that's 59629, and it's a daisy frame. And it's pretty similar to the original file that was used, so this is what I chose. You could choose any sort of flower file that you would like, or any other shape. Now, the one thing I did notice with this file, which you will notice and you'll encounter, and it's not a problem, if I fill this with a color, so let's go ahead and let's fill it with the light pink. What you're going to notice is that when it does open, it fills that whole file. You don't see those centers in the petals and in the middle that are punched out. It's not a problem. Once I fill out with color, if I right click and I choose make compound path, that takes those centers out. So it takes it from the multiple layers of those shapes that created that design, and it makes it into one layer. So now we have our flower image. I'm just going to come up here, and I'm going to change the line color just for a visual reference. Now what I'm going to do is I made a copy of this light pink area. So what I can do is I can use part of this file. The first thing I'm going to do is select it, and I'm going to take the color out of it because that's going to make it easier for us to work with. So I'm going to take that color out, and then I want to right click, and I'm going to release compound path. And what that's going to do is it's going to take it from one layer in a design, and it's going to break it up into pieces. So if I release the compound path, you don't see it on the screen because I also need to right click and choose ungroup. When I ungroup, you're going to see the selection boxes show up around all those little pieces. Now, I don't need the pieces. But if I want it to be the exact same size of this frame, I'm going to use it as an example. So I want to click on the outer edge of this frame. With that outer edge selected only, I'm going to come over here to the offset panel, and I'm going to choose an internal offset. Now, this is where it can get a little bit tricky. I am going to make an internal offset that's going to be on top of those other pieces, but I'm going to show you a trick. So if I choose internal offset, it made an internal offset where I don't want. So I'm going to Control Z or undo. And then I need to, if I move this, it's still grouped as one image. So I'm going to right click again and I'm going to choose ungroup. And it just really depends on how the file was created. Sometimes they act a little weird. I'm going to select that outer edge again. And then I want the internal offset. And in my software, it goes back to what it originally was. But if you have a smaller offset, let's just change this to 0.2. Okay, so pretend it went to 0.2 in the beginning. Because I already did this as a test, it just went back to my default. So if I increase this offset, before I click apply, I'm going to increase it down to the same size as that inside of the frame because I want it to match. When you make an offset, that offset is selected. So if I hold my shift key down, I can go ahead and click apply. You can see I have my selection box around that internal offset I just made. If I hold my shift key down and I click on the outer edge of that frame, I can then move those away and I have the exact same frame as I have on the original card. So with this selected, I'm going to go ahead and fill it with color because I want you to see visually what happens in the next steps. So if I click on this and I choose that pink color, currently we have two squares on top of each other. To make my frame, I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose Make Compound Path. That's going to take it from 2 layers and it's going to combine it into 1 layer, which is now a frame. So now if I were to move this over top, over here, you're going to see that it lines up exactly the same as the original card. And then what I can do is I can select my flower and my frame and I can center that. Now, if I want the flower to be similar to the original card, I'm going to use the corner bounding boxes and I'm going to adjust it until all of the edges overlap. And you want to make sure when you're sizing it that you also center it so that it gets centered within that frame. But what you're looking for here, let me zoom in real close because I can tell it's hard to see on the screen at a distance out, but these are not overlapping. So I want to make sure that I size my flower so it's overlapping on all 4 edges. So I'll select both and again center. Now once I have that as I want it, I'm going to select both of them. I can choose center again just to make sure that it's centered. And I like to make a copy. So let me zoom out here to my page. I prefer to hold my Alt key down and you can see my cursor changed and then I can drag a copy away. But you can do copy paste however you choose to in the software. There's multiple ways to do that. I always just like to keep copies of things because if I wanted to come back out here and grab this flower, I can do that and use it at a later date. It's not welded to my frame. If it's welded, once it's welded, then after you save that file, you can't go back and make changes to it. So I always keep copies of everything off to the side. So I'm going to come back to my original, going to select it, and then if you moved it, make sure to center it again, but I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose weld. And then what I want to do is I want to look at this closely. You can see at the top, let's zoom into the bottom first. It is welded here, going to move up, it's welded on the edges, and it is welded at the top. You can adjust this however you feel or see fit. So now we've created our flower frame here. It's not identical. It's not the same. You can use any flower you want. This is one that I searched for in my library to use as an example, and it was pretty similar. So then, what do we do about the text? Well, you can choose whatever sentiment you would like to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my text tool on the left-hand side. I'm going to type out hello. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fill this with a color. Let's choose a different color just because I want to turn those red cut lines off. Now I'm going to increase the size just so you can see this a little bit. And then you want to select your font style. So I'm going to come over here to my text style panel. And then I'm going to simply type in the font that I used. And I really like this font. It's going to take it a second to populate all my fonts. But I really like this Sharpie pen. And it's the one that I selected just to use for the demo. So once I have that, I typed it in here. It pops it up. I'm going to choose that Sharpie pen. And then I'm going to make a copy of it. I always keep a copy of my original text off to the side because once I weld this, it is going to give me a more accurate measurement around my design, but it takes it from editable text and makes it a vector design. So I can no longer change the text. So I always keep a copy out here, just like I did for the flower, in case I want to come back and use that. So if I right click and I choose weld because my letters are overlapping, you can see that selection box comes around my design closer. It also grays out my text style panel. It's no longer editable text. So then I can take this and I can decide how I want it placed. I can select both and use my center. And what you're going to see here is that all of your text styles are going to vary and are going to be different. The left edge of it may not look centered is what I'm really trying to get at, because I have this loop of this O over here that extends farther out than the edge of my letter. So for whatever text style you're using or whatever sentiment you're using, you may need to either center it or eyeball it, depending on what you feel is the best for this design. So I'm going to click on it, and then what I want to do is I'm going to come back over here to my offset panel, and I'm going to choose an offset. And then you can adjust the distance, larger or smaller, according to what you feel is going to work for your design. I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to click apply. Again, when you create an offset, the offset is the object that's selected. So I want to make sure that I do not click anywhere else. I'm going to hold my shift key down, and I'm going to select the frame with the flower attached to it. And then I'm going to right click and choose weld. And now we have created a different card front that you could add to this free card file that was in the Silhouette Design Store. So you can use the Silhouette Studio tools to create your own new designs that you could use all year long. Even though this was termed as a Mother's Day card, you may not use the term mom. You may use mum, or you may want to use it for other things throughout the year. And you can do that simply by changing a few elements and adding those in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to select the pink background of those flowers, hold my shift key down, select the dark pink, and I'm going to select this turquoise color down here, light blue, however it shows on your screen. I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to hold my Alt key down, and I'm just going to drag a copy over here so we can place that, and you can see how that looks. And then I'll just change this back to a white now that it's on top of my card. So then you have a card that you could use for all kinds of events for the entire year, not just one holiday. So I hope those tips have helped and give you a look. Check out the description below for links to the files that I used, to the font style, to this free tab on the Silhouette Design Store where they release a new file every single week, and additional resources on the tools that we used in this tutorial. Thanks for joining me. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click that notifications button for future content. Have a great day. Thank you.